There's fire deep in my soul. I'ma rise up like the legends of old.
All right, so hello Lions. Look, we're back here with another episode of Open to Serve, this great little NDCL podcast or video blog. I don't know what we're calling it, guys, but I coach boys lacrosse. Coach DeMichael and Coach Mazzaferri both track and field, and we know that look, a lot of our athletes and families are hurting right now with the decision that came down on Tuesday from the OHSA, right, about canceling the spring sports season. We know a lot of you might be feeling angry, disappointed, frustrated. So we're here to share a little bit about our story of athletics with you, to also sharing that experience of feeling a lot of different things. We're right there with you in this moment. But we hope that this is an opportunity for you to hear from us in a way that points you towards really how the ending of one thing can lead to the beginning of something new that you may have never even thought about.
I started out very early as a soccer player, kindergarten years, where everyone chases the ball and everyone like a sea of little people. But I didn't start track in CYO until 5th grade. For St. Paul's track and field. In
Where's
North
St.
Canton.
Paul's, Coach?
North Canton, Ohio.
Okay.
So not too far from the NDCL, probably about an hour and 15 minutes. So that's how I kind of got started with track and field, which is kind of the story. I'd say it's pretty similar to some of our athletes with CYO and getting involved. I know it's a pretty good program, and there's a lot of students involved, especially at NDES. I know their team's really big too. So started through that and stuck with it. Eventually ran at college. Run through Mount Union. So that's kind of my start, at least, for that portion.
I started playing baseball probably when I was like 3, and then moved through up until 10th grade. I played basketball and soccer in high school, and I ran track my junior and senior year. So I kind of had the whole gambit of athletics and so on and so forth. And then went on to college to play soccer for a year and actually stopped based off a decision that I kind of had control but didn't. So that ending point was a little bit different than a normal college athlete, I guess, per se.
It sounds like the sports that you guys started out with are not necessarily the ones that
we ended with.
I started out playing ice hockey when my family moved to Menor when I was about 6 years old. Right, there's the Menor ice rink was right there, and I can remember my brother and I doing these learn to skate classes, and always just really loved ice hockey. So played youth hockey at Mentor, and then came to NDCL and continued playing hockey there. Still living the NHL dream. At some point they're gonna come knocking. Right now it's only the UPS man, but look. Get to college. I was telling these guys earlier, tried out 2 different times, right, for the varsity hockey team. Being a walk-on can be a challenging experience in and of itself. You're the little man.
So you have to make the team to be considered a walk-on first.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, good. Thanks a lot, Coach. Had that not happen where I didn't make the team, I don't think I would be in the position where I am now, having really fallen in love with the sport of lacrosse. It was only because of that moment when playing hockey, in that competitive way ended, that the door opened to learn about a new sport, and just feel really blessed to be in the position where I am now. But the way that happened was really unexpected.
Similar to our seniors, I didn't really have a senior season either, due to different reasons, not due to COVID. But I was in the middle of student teaching, which some of our students I know are interested in education and might follow suit in that in their higher education. But it was a lot to take on to really be in the role of a teacher and still have classes and be involved and be in a sport. And it ended up being too much on my plate, and I didn't feel like I could say no or take anything off. So clearly when that happens, and I know our our coaches know this, that takes a toll on your body mentally and physically, and it just competing at that level was not possible anymore. So that season was kind of taken away. But I would say what was kind of birthed from that was realizing, you really have to take care of yourself mentally and physically, and sometimes slow down, which I know our students are kind of forced to do that right now. But in that time, I was able to, strengthen those things, invest more time into myself. And then at the same time too, I was able to figure out what my next steps were, which was to go to grad school, to study counseling and to continue that coaching path. So although I didn't have a senior season, I was still able to use my own experience in making sure, you have balance, that you really look at that, and to share that with my student athletes, as far as that side of coaching goes, besides just the knowledge with training and whatnot. So it ended out working for the better, where I learned more about myself, what I needed to do to take care of myself. And then it gave me more time to think about and invest time into really what I wanted to do after undergrad. So there were positives.
Yeah, so we may not even be talking to you right now if it wasn't for that moment. You may not been a counselor.
Exactly.
Yeah, got it. Nice.
So I had to stop in my freshman year based off of, well, actually at the end of my freshman year, kind of similar to what Maz said. It was really grades in school or soccer, and I couldn't bounce at the both at the time. I wasn't as mature academically where I needed to be, and how to manage and handle all the different stressors in college at the time. So I made the choice to stick with academics, as everyone should, because like Mr. Suso said, you're not going to, it's very few people are going to be professional athletes. And the number one thing is the academic portion of anything you're doing in school. So,
Coach, are you saying the NHL is not going to come knocking on my door then?
No, that is probably about 5 years past the time that they are going to reach out to you, Mr. Suso. I apologize. I've seen you skate. It's not bad, but I don't think it's of Red Wings standards.
Right. Look, if Coach Clark was here, he would tell you about the records that none of which
have any meaning. Penalty box records.
Zero. Yeah.
Most time spent on the ice, like
right.
off their skates.
Right.
But I think the big takeaway for me is after that was all said and done, I really focused on my major, which was sports medicine. And very similar to what you said about Maz being a counselor, I'm here because of how much time I was able to put into my sports medicine career, which then branched off into personal training, which then branched off into, trying to get into physician's assistant school, which then branched off into working into an orthopedic clinic, which then branched off into coaching at the high school. And then it turned into being in the wellness field with NDCL and creating a position with Mr. Whaler that, is something unique and different than most schools have. So like all of that started by one door closing, and all those other ones just started opening up like crazy. Yeah. And, at the time it was like, and I'm sure Maz can attest to it and you can attest to it too. Like it's devastating at the time, because you're like, I've been doing this for 14 years of my life, or however long you've been doing that sport for. And it's a routine that you get into, and it just kind of ends. Mm-hmm. And you have the recreational stuff, but it's just not the same. So it's different. But it opens other doors up.
Yeah. You normally don't have the perspective to really see that different door was open, and that's maybe more so the door that you should be going through right now. A lot of times it doesn't happen until afterwards, but once you kind of have that aha moment, you're like, oh wow, this was kind of supposed to happen, although it might have been stressful at the time. I got to where I needed to be.
Right. I think growing up, I defined myself according to the sport that I played. Right. Maybe even more so than as a student, or as a brother or a son. I was a hockey player, but I think in that moment I placed such an emphasis on that as defining who I was, maybe not giving enough credit to me as a complete person, right? Like that's one facet of your life. We're all sons or daughters, brothers or sisters Students, it's one part of sort of who we are. And it helps to make us all a little more complete in that way, and bring us together. But I think that's why, in the moment, in the moment, why the emotions can be so strong is because, for me, that's who I was defining myself as a hockey player in that moment. And I thought, well, geez, if you don't have this, then what do you have? And
I would think a lot of athletes probably do that. I mean,
yeah.
I probably was in the same boat in high school,
Right.
because, when you play 4 sports in high school at the same time, that's all you're doing. And that's all you're thinking about is I'm an athlete, and balancing it and understanding that doesn't just define you as the only thing. It's a part of you, but it's not the big piece of you. It's just your character is reflected through your athletics, but it's not who you are as a whole, I would say.
Athletes too tend to put certain expectations, and with those expectations, a timeline of when that goal or whatnot needs to be completed. And then if you're short of that goal, you failed, there's failure. But in that doesn't necessarily mean you didn't have great strides and improve. So I think that's something tough too, to kind of reset, which I guess what we're kind of asking our athletes to do now is, although you didn't have your season and were able to have the experience that you wanted, there are still valuable things that you can do, which maybe that's connecting with your family, or maybe that's putting more time into your schoolwork that you are gifted that now, that you wouldn't have had beforehand. So I know for our athletes too, we're still encouraging them to follow the training plans and to really focus on maybe different parts of being an athlete that you can put more time into now than when you were competing. So you can focus more on strength things now, more on like core, all those little things that add up, where you can still set yourself up to be successful moving forward as a senior next year or as a junior next year, where it's not like you missed a season. You're just focusing on different things as an athlete.
Things to something that may bring you more happiness than you ever thought always come as a result of some ending and or some stopping point.
Today I got to call the seniors for track, and I'm sure Matt's got to talk to some of them too. And that conversational piece is probably one of the better things I've gotten to do during this quarantine, like getting to hear their energy and seeing how they're doing and how everyone was. And that's why coaches coach. I mean, at least for me, I'm pretty sure between knowing you and knowing Coach DeFranco and knowing Coach Mazzaferri and knowing Coach Clark, like we coach to coach you guys. Like, yes, it's to keep the sport going alive in us, but it's the passion between us wanting to teach that to the people that are younger and growing up, and trying to help you guys become better at what that sport can give, and a perspective from being a better person and growing and generating better characteristics and just learning the sport in general. And at least that's why I coach. I love the people aspect of it. I love being able to interact and the social, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just the social connection that you get from it. And I think, just yesterday having those phone calls really made me think of that. And it really kind of put that into perspective for me, that it wasn't necessarily about the X's and O's of a specific sport like basketball or soccer, or learning how to make sure everyone's in shape for track. It was the people, like interacting with the students and the athletes. And that's something I think I don't want to say I took for granted, but like it was very prominent yesterday in those phone conversations in my mind. Like, wow, this is really why I do it. This is what I love about it, in the sense, like, I never experienced this. None of us have in this podcast in that sense. But realize that the suns are going to rise tomorrow. Life is going to keep moving on, and you have to take it day by day and continue to be positive and continue to build and continue to grow and continue to realize that no matter what today presented you with and the conflicts and the adversity, you're going to have to get through it, and you're going to have to figure out a way to continue to move forward, regardless if you like it or not, because life's going to keep coming at you, and there's going to be different obstacles and different hurdles and different things that are just going to keep hitting you, and it's not going to stop. And you have to realize that, and you just have to become tougher and tougher and tougher as life continues, and you have to learn from your experiences. And I think both of these guys could, agree on that. Like, we've all been in certain situations where we didn't want that situation to occur, and we still were able to grow from it and learn from it and continue to be a better person. And as long as you're staying positive and moving forward and growing, you're doing the right thing. So
look, on behalf of all of our other spring sports coaches, look, we're here for you guys. However we can help, we're in it with you. Though, as Coach DeMichael said, we don't pretend that we can know exactly what it's like, but we're here to move through it with you, shoulder to shoulder, and do it as a team. So we can't wait to see what the future holds for you. Look, maybe some of you might find your way back to NDCL as coaches yourselves. Never know. But thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Episode 2 in the books.
Hey, 2.
Woo! Let's go.
Brighter than gold.
Man, I need a dog. Oh my gosh. Well, it's safe to say that that's going to be the high point of this.
Hey, that's
100%.
okay.